frequency tables. So what do we mean by that? Well, relative frequency is just the frequency. Well, frequency is the number of times that something occurs. Relative frequency tells us the number of times something occurs compared to a total. So to find a relative frequency, set up a ratio comparing frequency over the total. Then convert the ratio to a percentage. Read questions carefully to determine whether or not the total is referring to the entire table or a specific row or column. So in our first survey, a group of people were surveyed and asked whether they had a gym membership and if they flossed regularly. So first of all, let's complete the table. So we added up all the rows and the columns and got these numbers. And now we're going to use the numbers to answer questions 1 and 2. So in question 1, it says, of the people surveyed, what is the relative frequency of people who floss regularly? So of people who floss regularly, that was 39 people. And then we had a total number of people who were surveyed, so 39 out of 100 is 39%. On the second one, of the people own a gym membership, what is the relative frequency of people who floss regularly? Well, in the gym membership column, we have 45 people. Of those 45, 28 floss regularly. So 28 divided by 45 is 62.2%. All right, so there we go. Now, if you rounded that to the nearest percent, it would just be 62%. Okay, for our next table, Liz wanted to see if there was any association between people who have kids and people who have pets. The two-way table shows her results from the survey. Now, first of all, we're going to complete the table and answer the questions and then express the relative frequencies as percentages rounded to the nearest whole percent. So when we fill in the table, these are the numbers that we get. And then we're going to use these numbers to help us answer these last three questions. The first one was, of the people surveyed, what is the relative frequency of people who have pets? So in the pet column, we have 64 people, and it turns out that we have a total number of people surveyed was 125. So 64 divided by 125 is 0.512, which, when we round to the nearest whole percent, is 51%. On the next question, of the people who have kids, in this group, there are 63 people who have kids. What is the relative frequency of people who have pets? So 41 out of 63 have pets, which when you divide it, you end up with 65% when you round it to the nearest whole percent. Number 3, of the people who do not have kids, no kids, there's 62 of those. What is the relative frequency of people who have pets? So that would be 23 out of 62, which when you divide that, you get 0.3709, which rounds to 37% when you round it to the nearest whole percent, like it told us to, right? Very good. Okay, on this next one, the movie club surveyed 250 high school students. The students were asked how often they go to the movies and whether they prefer action movies or dramas. Their responses are summarized in the following table. So these are their responses. And then we went ahead and filled in the data so we could get this done pretty quick. But what is the percentage of students who prefer action movies? Well, we add 85 and 30 together to get 115. And so 115 out of 250, when you divide it, is 0.46, which is 46%. And then we ask the question, what percent of the students go to the movies 3 times a month or more? So we add 55 and 30 together, we get 85 out of our total of 250. That gives us 0.34, or 34% of the people go to the movie regularly. All right, on the next one, A sample of 426 people is selected. The people sampled are classified according to their place of residence and the highest educational degree that they have earned. The result is given in this table. What is the relative frequency of people in the sample whose place of residence is urban? So all we had to do in this case was just add up all the numbers in the urban column, and that ended up being 148. So that's 148 out of 426 people live in an urban location. And so when we calculate that out, we get 0.34741, and they said to round our decimal to 2 decimal places. So when I move the decimal over 2 places to get the 34, then that 0.741 I rounded to 0.74. So in this case we got 34.74%. All right. A sample of 270 adults is selected. The adults are classified according to voter registration status and according to preferred source of current events information. The results are given in the contingency table below. So what is the relative frequency of adults in the sample who are not registered to vote, and who obtain their information through radio? Okay, so we got to be kind of careful. So of those who get their information from radio and who are not registered to vote, that is 24. Now, the total number of people who are not registered is 137. So 24 divided by 137 is 0.175182, which when we move the decimal over 2 places and then round it to 2 more decimal places, we get 17.52%. On this last one, this is kind of one of the kind of problems you'll see on today's assignment, where they'll actually give you some information up here and ask you to choose where to put the data on this table. So in this case, you've got people who can swim and who can't swim, and then you have a certain number of students in first grade that can swim and a certain number who can't swim, and vice versa. The same thing in second grade. So when I filled in the table, I put can swim or can't swim on the left side in these boxes. And then of those who can swim, 10 of them were in first grade and 18 of them were in second grade. Of those who can't swim, 5 of them were in first grade and 6 of them were in second grade. And so I filled out the table. All right, so because a lot of these are going to be found in computer diagrams that you can manipulate, our assignment is number 111, two-way frequency, relative frequencies in ALEKS. So good luck.